Mark had worked security at Fairview Amusement Park for nearly 6 years. He'd seen it all. Drunks sneaking in after hours, kids trying to impress friends on dares, even the occasional break-in by vandals looking to tag the old roller coasters with graffiti. But nothing unnerved him like the silence. At night, when the crowds were gone, the rides looked like hollow corpses. The Ferris wheel loomed against the sky like a skeletal hand reaching for the moon. The funhouse mirrors reflected only darkness. And the carousel. Mark had always avoided looking at it for too long. It wasn't the kind of silence that calmed you. It was the kind that pressed against your chest and made you feel watched. On most nights, Mark drowned it out with music in his earbuds or long phone calls to his girlfriend. But this night was different. His phone battery was dead, and the park felt emptier than usual. It was 2:07 a.m. when he first heard it. Faint at first, like an old music box wheezing in the distance. Mark stopped mid-patrol, frowning. The sound drifted on the wind, soft but unmistakable. Carousel music. Impossible. The carousel had been shut down the year before after mechanical failures. The ride was stripped for parts, lights removed, power disconnected. It wasn't even on his patrol checklist anymore. Yet there it was, the tinny sing-song melody he remembered from busy afternoons. Da-da-da-da-da-da. The tune repeated, slightly warped, dragging too long on certain notes like a record left in the sun. Mark told himself it had to be a prank. Maybe kids had smuggled in a speaker, but his gut twisted as he walked toward the sound. When the carousel came into view, Mark froze. It was moving. The horses rose and fell in uneven rhythm, their chipped paint glowing faintly under flickering bulbs. Light shimmered across the mirrors set into the central column, though Mark knew for a fact the bulbs had been removed months ago. The platform turned slowly, groaning with each rotation. And then he saw them. Figures, sitting atop the horses, riding in perfect silence. Mark squinted, thinking maybe they were mannequins left behind from an old display. But no. Their heads moved. Their eyes gleamed. And when the carousel rotated closer, Mark's stomach dropped. They weren't smiling like happy children. Their mouths were too wide, too sharp. Grins stretched from ear to ear, frozen but alive. Mark stumbled back, flashlight trembling in his hand. "Who's there?" he shouted. His voice cracked against the music. The carousel slowed. The music box wheezed lower and lower until it dragged into silence. The figure sat motionless, then in the blink of an eye, gone. Every horse was empty. The mirrors reflected only Mark's pale face, wide-eyed and sweating. He tried to convince himself it was exhaustion, a trick of the light, until he noticed the footprints. Dozens of them. Bare, wet footprints pressed into the pavement, circling the ride and scattering in every direction. The prints were too big for children, too small for adults. They led across the midway toward the funhouse, the Ferris wheel, the cotton candy stand, and then just stopped, like the owners had vanished into thin air. Mark's flashlight flickered, the silence pressed in. He left the park early that night. The next night he came prepared. Flashlight batteries fully charged, his phone at 100%, a steel baton on his belt. And still, at exactly 2:07 a.m., the music began again, this time louder. Mark's breath came shallow as he followed the sound. The carousel spun faster now, mirrors reflecting streaks of light. The horses jolted violently, their painted eyes glinting in the dark. And sitting on the lead horse was a little girl. Her dress was torn, yellowed with age. Her hair hung in limp strands over her face. As Mark's flashlight beam hit her, she lifted her head. Her eyes were black pits, her mouth curved into a perfect smile, and though her lips didn't move, a whisper slithered through Mark's mind. "Ride with us." The music screeched higher, discordant and violent. The carousel whirled faster and faster, the figures blurring until Mark couldn't count them anymore. Every horse seemed occupied now, heads snapping, eyes fixed on him. Mark dropped his flashlight and bolted, heart hammering in his throat. He told his supervisor the next morning. They laughed. "Old rides make noise. You've been watching too many scary movies." But Mark didn't laugh, because when he checked his phone recordings, the carousel music was there. Faint, distorted, but real. He quit a week later, but Fairview didn't stay quiet. 3 weeks later, a traveling carnival set up 2 towns over. The locals buzzed with excitement until they noticed a strange ride in the lineup. An old rotting carousel. No one remembered seeing it delivered. And every night, people swore they heard music long after the carnival had closed. The carousel spun on its own. And if you looked in the mirrors, you'd see the riders. Not mannequins, not people, but something in between. All grinning, all waiting. Crestwood Amusement Park was dying. Once it had been the pride of the county. Neon lights glowing over the river, music drifting across the summer air, roller coasters rattling with the screams of joy and fear. But now, most of the rides were shut down, the booths boarded up, and weeds clawed through the pavement. The oldest ride of all was the Howler, a wooden roller coaster nearly a century old. It had been the park's crown jewel once. Generations of families had braved its sharp drops and rattling turns. But in recent years, rumors had stained it. Stories of accidents, disappearances, and nights when the ride would turn itself on, running empty cars in the dead of night. The park announced it would finally dismantle the Howler. One last summer, one last ride. Jason, Ryan, Kelly, and Mariah stood outside the locked gate that circled the coaster. The air smelled of damp wood and rust. The tracks loomed overhead like skeletal arms twisting into the night sky. "You know this thing's a death trap, right?" Kelly muttered, hugging her arms to her chest. Ryan grinned, rattling the gate. "That's the point. One last ride before they kill it for good." Mariah shifted uneasily. "It's after hours, the power's off, there's no way we can..." Her words died as the ride roared to life. The chain lift clanked, groaning, dragging itself up the first incline. The bulbs lining the track flickered, buzzing to life one by one, casting sickly light across the weeds below. Jason's stomach dropped. That shouldn't be possible." Ryan smirked. "Looks like it's waiting for us." And before any of them could argue, he was already climbing the fence. The car at the station sat ready, empty, waiting. The seats were damp, the restraints stiff and heavy. They clicked down tighter than Jason remembered, locking with a sound like bone snapping. Mariah forced a laugh. "Okay, this is insane. Who's even running it?" Jason glanced around the deserted station. No workers, no ride operator. Just shadows stretching across the cracked concrete. The car jolted suddenly, lurching forward. The chain dragged them up the first hill. The park below shrank, swallowed by darkness. The sky looked wrong, too black with no stars above. At the crest of the hill, Ryan threw his arms in the air. "Woo! Last ride, baby!" The car plunged. Kelly screamed. For a few moments it was fun. Terrifying, but fun. The kind of thrill they remembered from childhood. But as the ride thundered on, Jason's excitement drained. Something was wrong. 5 minutes in, they should have reached the station again. But the track stretched on, twisting into hills he didn't recognize. 10 minutes. The ride plunged into a black tunnel, the walls closed and dripping with water. 15 minutes. The track looped higher than skyscrapers, climbing so far Jason's ears popped. Kelly clutched her harness, sobbing. "It's not supposed to be this long, it's not supposed..." Her words cut off in a scream. The car whipped down a drop so steep Jason thought they'd fly free. Wind tore tears from his eyes. When he turned, Mariah's seat was empty, her restraint still locked in place. Jason's chest froze. She was right there. Kelly's voice cracked. She fell. She must have fallen. No, Jason whispered. There's no body, there's nothing. The car dove again, rattling violently. Mariah was gone as if she had never existed. Minutes turned into hours. Ryan laughed hysterically, hair plastered to his forehead. This is insane. Best ride ever. But Jason saw the fear in his eyes. His knuckles were white around the harness. The ride twisted through impossible shapes now. Corkscrews that bent sideways, loops that spiraled into darkness. The wood groaned like screaming voices. Jason checked his watch. The hands spun uselessly. Time didn't exist anymore. Then Ryan vanished. 1 second he was beside Jason, shouting into the wind. The next his seat was empty. The restraint still locked tight. Jason's heart pounded. His voice cracked. Stop! Please stop! Kelly sobbed beside him. I don't want to die. I don't want... Her scream was swallowed by the roar of the wind. Her seat was empty. Jason sat alone. The car rattled endlessly forward. The park was gone now. No trees, no ground, no lights, just endless track twisting through black void. The air tasted metallic. His body felt heavy, stretched, as if years were passing in seconds. Sometimes in the mirrors at the top of hills, he caught glimpses of things behind him. Figures, shapes riding the cars in the distance, their eyes glowing faintly, their mouths twisted into wide, hungry grins. And when he closed his eyes, he swore he could hear Mariah's scream, Kelly's sobs, Ryan's laughter. Still trapped somewhere on the ride. Days, weeks, Jason lost count. He no longer felt hunger, no thirst, only the endless rush of air, the snap of wooden beams, the roar of a ride that never ended. His fingernails cracked against the harness. His throat burned from screaming. And still the car climbed, dropped, twisted, over and over. When Crestwood Park workers dismantled the Howler months later, they noticed something strange. The blueprints didn't match the ride. The track stretched further than it should have, curving into directions that didn't exist. The cars were found in the station, empty. All except one. The last car's restraint was locked tight. Deep claw marks raked the seat. And every so often, late at night, people living near the river swore they heard it. The sound of a roller coaster thundering through the dark, even though the Howler was gone. The fairgrounds always felt alive at night. Bright bulbs flashed in dizzying patterns. Neon signs buzzed with static, and carnival music drifted through the air, muffled by the crowd's laughter. The smell of fried dough and popcorn mixed with the oily tang of old machinery. For Danny, age 12, it was paradise. He had begged his parents for weeks to take him and his little sister Emma, age 7. It was the last weekend before school started, and the fair would be gone by Monday. They did it all: the Ferris wheel, the bumper cars, the funhouse. Emma won a stuffed bear at the ring toss. Danny rode the tilt-a-whirl until his stomach turned. But as the night wound down, there was only one thing left on Danny's list: cotton candy. Please, Danny begged, tugging his mother's sleeve. Just one bag, then we can go. His mom sighed, smiling at his persistence. Fine, but only one. You'll share with Emma. They made their way toward the food stalls. The midway was crowded, lit in garish pinks and greens. But when they reached the cotton candy booth, Danny noticed something strange. This one looked older than the others. The paint was chipped, its wooden sign faded. The bulbs above flickered dimly, buzzing faintly like dying flies. And behind the counter stood a clown. He didn't look like the colorful, cheerful mascots they'd seen walking the fair. This clown's costume was tattered, the fabric dull, its bright colors faded to muted browns and yellows. His painted smile was cracked, flaking, but stretched far too wide. His eyes were dark, wet, and heavy with something Danny couldn't name. His hands, long and pale, curled around the stick of sugar he was spinning. "Evening," the clown rasped, voice rough and broken. Danny's mom hesitated. I thought the park stopped using clowns years ago." The clown chuckled. It was low and wet, like air bubbling through water. "I've been here a long, long time." He leaned forward, sliding the finished cotton candy across the counter. "For the boy." Danny reached for it eagerly. "Thank you, mister." The clown's head tilted. His painted grin never shifted. "Enjoy," he whispered. That night, Danny woke to laughter. It wasn't Emma's, it wasn't his parents'. It was high-pitched, jagged, broken, like glass shattering in a child's voice. He sat up, heart hammering, sweat cold on his back. The half-eaten cotton candy bag sat on his desk, pink fluff spilling out like insulation. And beside it, a figure, slouched in the desk chair, still and silent. The clown. The lamplight caught his painted face, the too wide grin, the eyes gleaming faintly like wet marbles. Danny gasped, pulling the covers to his chin. When he blinked, the chair was empty, and the bag of cotton candy was gone. The next morning, his parents laughed it off as a dream, but Danny's appetite was gone. At school, when he opened his lunchbox, his stomach turned. Inside, instead of sandwiches and fruit, was pink, sticky cotton candy, crammed into every corner. His friends gagged, pointing. Danny slammed it shut, face white. That night, the dreams returned. He saw the clown again, standing at the foot of his bed, holding another stick of candy. The sugar dripped, wet and stringy, like strands of hair. "You didn't finish," it whispered, though its lips never moved. Days passed. Danny grew pale, restless. He stopped eating, stopped sleeping. His eyes sank deep, ringed with purple. His parents grew worried, pressing him to explain, but he never said more than one word. The clown. They tried to comfort him, told him clowns were just actors, masks and paint. But Emma said something that froze them. Why does Danny keep talking to the clown in the kitchen? When his parents checked, the kitchen was empty. But Danny's notebook told another story. Page after page, scribbled drawings of the cotton candy stand. The clown's face cracked and stretched into impossible grins. Eyes too black, too empty. One page showed the clown holding hands with two children. Beneath, written in Danny's uneven scrawl, were the names, Danny and Emma. The carnival returned the following summer. Danny's parents, desperate to prove it was all in his head, dragged him back. But when they asked the park manager about the cotton candy stand, his face hardened. "There hasn't been a clown vendor here in over 20 years, he said flatly. Danny's mother's voice shook. No. He served us last year. We all saw him, right at the edge of the midway." The manager shook his head. "That booth burned down in '89, gas leak. Took the worker with it. He was dressed as a clown." That night, the laughter returned. This time louder. Danny's parents rushed downstairs and froze. Two voices. Danny's, Emma's, laughing with something else in the kitchen. The room was empty when they arrived. Only the kitchen table remained. And on it sat two fresh bags of cotton candy, still warm, dripping pink sugar that looked too much like flesh. The funhouse at Crestwood Carnival was the kind of attraction most people passed by without a second glance. Its paint peeled in wide strips, revealing gray wood beneath. Half the bulbs in its sign were burnt out, so it only flickered weakly. Funho. The clown face painted above the door was faded, its grin warped by weather and age. To most kids, it was a joke. But to Danny, Emma, Mark, and Lila, it was a dare. "Bet you can't make it all the way through without screaming," Mark said, smirking as they stood in front of the dark entrance. Emma rolled her eyes. "It's just mirrors and squeaky floors, big deal." but Danny felt a chill the moment they stepped inside. The sound of the carnival vanished as soon as the door shut. The music, the rides, the laughter, all gone. It wasn't muffled. It was erased, as if the funhouse floated in its own pocket of silence. The first room looked normal enough. Mirrors lined the walls, some tall, some bent, some cracked into spiderweb patterns. Colored bulbs glowed faintly overhead, buzzing like flies. Mark laughed, flexing in front of a stretched mirror. "Look at me, I'm 8 feet tall," Lila giggled, standing beside him. But her reflection didn't giggle. It frowned. She froze. "Did you see that?" "What?" Mark asked. But the reflection was smiling again, perfectly in sync. As they went deeper, the mirrors grew stranger. Danny noticed his reflection wasn't looking at him anymore. It was looking slightly above him, like something was standing just behind his shoulder. He spun around, nothing. When he looked back, his reflection was smiling, even though his own lips were pressed tight. He whispered to Emma, "Did you see that?" Emma shook her head, but her reflection didn't. It grinned wide, teeth too many, too sharp. Danny pulled her away. "Let's just get to the end." The hallway twisted endlessly. Sometimes it sloped downward, the air growing colder until they could see their breath. Sometimes it tilted so sharply they nearly fell. The mirrors reflected them from every angle, but some didn't copy their movements. Mark pressed a hand to one mirror, trying to steady himself. His reflection leaned forward, pressing its face to the glass. Its lips moved. "Let me out." Mark yelped and stumbled back, swearing. But when they all looked again, the reflection matched him normally. "Seriously," Lila whispered, voice shaking. "I don't like this." They walked for what felt like an hour. Their legs ached and the air smelled like mildew and rust. Lila trailed behind, staring nervously at the mirrors. Then she screamed. The others spun around. Her reflection wasn't copying her anymore. It was slamming its fists on the glass, mouth stretched wide in a silent scream. Lila clutched her throat, choking, as if something was pressing down on her. Danny grabbed her arm and yanked her forward. The mirror cracked, a jagged line running across the reflection's face. For a moment it looked like blood trickled from the crack. They ran. At last they saw it, the glowing exit sign at the end of a long corridor. Relief surged through them and they sprinted. The mirrors on either side blurred as they passed, warped faces flashing in the glass. Danny reached the door first. He stopped dead. His reflection wasn't moving. It stood there in the mirror beside the exit, smiling too wide. Then it raised its hand and waved. Danny's hand was at his side. The others crashed into him, shouting for him to open the door. The reflection's smile grew wider, teeth stretching until its cheeks split. Lila shoved the door and they spilled out into the night air. Sound crashed back in, music, laughter, the whir of rides. They gasped, shaking, trying to laugh it off. But when Danny looked back, his blood turned to ice. Through the glass doors of the funhouse, his reflection still stood there, smiling. And behind it, the mirrors were filled. Dozens of pale faces pressed against the glass, watching silently. None of them matched anyone outside. The carnival closed the funhouse the next year. Too many reports of kids going missing inside. Too many complaints about bad feelings. They boarded it up, nailed the doors shut. But locals say if you walk past it at night, you'll still hear faint thuds, like fists pounding on glass. And if you dare to peek through the cracks, you won't see your own reflection staring back. You'll see someone else, smiling, waiting. The Harper family had been on the road for 10 hours. James gripped the steering wheel tightly, eyes scanning the empty stretch of two-lane highway. The map app had glitched hours ago, sending them down back roads that twisted deeper into the woods. Claire sat beside him, staring out the window, her face tired in the dim dashboard glow. In the back, Lucy sang quietly to herself, clutching her stuffed bear. "Daddy," she piped up suddenly, pointing. "Look, lights!" James squinted through the windshield. There, glowing faintly through the trees, a Ferris wheel turned slowly against the night sky, lit with reds, blues, and greens. Music drifted faintly on the wind, calliope tunes, faint but clear. Claire frowned. That wasn't on the map. James forced a smile. Maybe it's a traveling carnival, we could use a break. The dirt road curved, and the forest opened onto a massive parking lot. Dozens of cars lined it in neat rows, yet not a single person moved between them. Lucy clapped her hands. "Please, can we go? Just for a little bit?" James hesitated. Something about the lot unsettled him. The cars were too clean, too perfect, everyone facing the same direction. But Claire squeezed his arm. "Let's stretch our legs, 10 minutes. They stepped out into the night. The smell hit first. Fried dough, popcorn, and spun sugar, sweet and heavy in the cool air. Music floated toward them, faint but cheerful. As they walked closer, the carnival bloomed into life. Rides spun, lights flashed, booths opened their shutters. But the midway was quiet. Families wandered with cotton candy. Children clutched balloons. Couples strolled arm in arm. And not one of them spoke. At first, Lucy didn't notice. She begged for the carousel, squealing with laughter as the painted horses bobbed up and down. Claire won her a stuffed rabbit at the ring toss, the vendor handing it over with a smile that didn't quite reach his glassy eyes. James tried to relax, tried to convince himself it was just a sleepy, quiet carnival. But the smiles. Everyone was smiling. Always smiling. When Lucy climbed into a bumper car, James whispered to Claire, "Do you see it? Nobody's talking, not a word." Claire looked around. The other parents stood motionless at the edge of the track, grinning as their children rode. Her stomach twisted. Something's wrong. It grew worse with every ride. The Ferris wheel turned without an operator touching the controls. The carousel spun faster, the horses jerking violently as Lucy clutched her rabbit. At the dart booth, James noticed the prizes were wrong. The stuffed animals weren't cute. Their button eyes were missing, their stitched mouths stretched into crooked grins. And then Claire froze, pointing. One of the guests had turned. Its face was blank. No eyes, no mouth, just smooth skin stretching across its skull. Still, it smiled. By midnight, James insisted they leave. But when they returned to the lot, their car was gone. Every car was gone. The lot was empty, stretching into shadow. Lucy whimpered, "Daddy, where's the car?" James's mouth opened, but no sound came. Because the music had stopped. The rides froze. The lights flickered out. And all at once, the smiling figures turned. Every single one. Hundreds of glassy eyes fixed on the Harpers, grins stretching wider, too wide. The silence was suffocating. They ran. Through the midway, past the stalls, the pavement cracking under their feet. At first, the figures didn't move. Then they began to follow, slowly at first, then faster. Their footsteps echoed like a drumbeat, hundreds of feet pounding in unison. The Harpers sprinted into the trees, branches clawing at their clothes. Lucy clutched her rabbit, sobbing. Claire's breath tore ragged in her throat. James didn't dare look back. The music started again, but wrong. It played backward, warped and shrieking, drilling into their skulls. The forest seemed endless. The ground tilted beneath them as though the world itself didn't want them to leave. Then suddenly, they burst onto the highway. Their car roared past, headlights blinding, a horn blared. James yanked Lucy to the shoulder just in time. When he looked back, the trees were still, silent. No lights, no carnival, only empty woods. The Harpers drove straight through the night, never stopping. They tried to convince themselves it was a dream, stress, exhaustion. Until a week later, when Claire went into Lucy's room. The stuffed rabbit sat neatly on her bed. Its button eyes were gone, and stitched across its fabric was a wide red smile. When Claire picked it up, a faint sound drifted from its chest. Calliope music, playing backward. You've just crossed the boundary between reality and the unknown. If you felt the fear tonight, make sure to subscribe before you leave, because on this channel every story is just the beginning. New nightmares arrive every few nights, each one darker than the last. Until then, keep your lights low, your doors locked, and your mind open. You are now part of the FearBound family.